Are you ready to step off into this show, Bill?
Bum, bum, bum. I have to drop into the ramp of the show. Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's a neat little skateboard reference right there.
Yeah. See, I'm a
Anybody
I'm
who
a skater kid.
anybody who might be out and about in Brooklyn at the moment, keep your eyes peeled for a giant man wearing a giant red helmet and some knee pads. What a dork!
It's
Skateboarding.
orange, but yes.
Oh, it's orange. It looked red on the photographs. Um,
I actually have elbow pads coming today, but go ahead.
why have you taken up skateboarding at the age of 40?
8. Um, because I stopped skateboarding as a teenager and I was scared of so many things, and I want to overcome that fear. And if not now, I'm not going to be able to do it when I'm 58. So I might as well do it while I'm 48.
Well, you never know.
Well, yeah, but it's going to be exponentially harder by the year, But yeah, that's why.
Hmm.
I'm trying to prove something to myself.
Okay.
We
Well,
went
watch
over a
out,
lot on the
everybody.
latest episode of Auntie. Yeah. All right, what are we talking about?
Liar, liar.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think we maybe even have done a show in the past called Liar, Liar, but I do like it as a title. I like the notion that artists are liars, or at the very least,
Even the ones who are being honest.
yes, because I do
Yeah,
tend to think that most humans are lying through their teeth most of the time about something or other. Um, but
sure.
that's just my take on the world. Of course, people writing in to complain about me, that's definitely one you can pick on. I do think we are all at least creating falsehoods with
Yes.
what we do. Anyway,
I mean, isn't there some extent though to which at least modern society requires or demands or expects you to fake it till you make it, lie, you know, exude confidence even when you don't have it, say you can do something even when you've never done it before, all these kinds of stories of success and conquest, right?
yes, and also that we rely so much on memory to function at all. In fact, it's really all we have to rely on to function, in any kind of emotional capacity. And memories are themselves just illusions. And we also know that we lie to ourselves through our ongoing changing perception of memory. So
Sure.
we build our, funnily enough, we build our past on shaky foundations of untruths. Um, and from that, nothing can really be the truth or real. Anyway, I was thinking about
But
this
do
a
you
lot.
think, go ahead.
I've been thinking about it a lot because I did an experiment with a group of people who know me and have known me for quite a long time. And when I've worked with them in the past, I've always been Sandi Robertson. And I worked with them in a session where I told them that Sandi Robertson had actually been a construct that I'd used um, to enable them to work with me for other reasons. And I watched with them as they kind of unfolded how they really feel or felt about what some of them thought was a lie, and others of them took actually as truth. I've been thinking a lot about this delineation between truth and lie. If there's a separation, it can be very subtle. And when we approach each other and we enter relationship, I question the truth that we think we bring, even if we have the greatest integrity as individuals, and even if the thought of
Yeah.
lying actively is quite sort of repugnant. You know, we might still say that actually there's always a sense that what we're doing is casting spinning a yarn,
Yeah.
in one way or another.
But you were actively lying to them either 4 weeks before or this time when you told them that the last 8 weeks were a lie or whatever.
Right. So either way, they
You were actively doing that, right? But yeah, I mean, but they always expected you to be telling them the truth, or they assumed that you were telling them the truth.
Well, I think that this also is an interesting thing is, where do we find what we believe in? Like, what tells us to believe which thing? I mean, there are obvious, I guess, evolutionary reasons why we trust or don't trust, or, what we see, how we perceive, and how that thing impacts us in terms of our trust values. But for most people I know, I think, and for the most part, they are trusting. You tell somebody something, they believe you. But that in
Yeah.
itself also is something I want to look at with you. Is, how long along a line of me telling you things would you go with me before you start to question whether what I'm saying is the truth? So I can tell you
Yeah.
my name is
Yeah.
Sandi Robertson, and you're like, sure. And I can tell you that I'm 43 years old, and you're like, sure. And then I could tell you that I was born in Iceland, and you'd be like, oh, really? Your accent isn't from there. But then I could
Sure.
give you a story, and you might think, oh, well, there's kind of credence in that story, la, la, la. But then, there's,
Why shouldn't I believe you though?
well, indeed. But if that is, if our kind of capacities allow for us to listen and believe every time, doesn't that make us terribly vulnerable?
Yeah, but what is the alternative? You just don't believe anyone, and then how would you build up trust in the first place if not just trusting by default?
Trusting by default. Do you trust by default?
Um, yeah, most of the time, unless I have other indicators to make me weary, right?
I mean, have you ever been with somebody who's speaking to you and telling you something, and what they're saying is completely legitimate seeming, yet something about them makes you disbelieve them?
Huh. I
Uh,
have people very close to me who do that all the time.
hmm. There's this thing, the signals we send to each other that are maybe not verbal, of course, giving lots away about maybe what we really mean, or whether what we're saying has any truth in it at all. But we also all know that there are people who are just exceptionally good at lying through their teeth. There's some people who do it for kind of vicious purposes. There are other people who do it
Sure.
almost by accident without thinking. There are some people
Sure.
who lie because that is the only way to survive.
Or that's what they think or want you to think.
Right.
Or some people are just sociopaths. That's also that's also a reality.
Yes. But I want you to think about where you go to before you start to question the truth, or what appears to be the truth that you are given.
Well,
Like, what is the
it's also a good
tolerance?
question with the images we're about to see. The bigger question is, what if you're lying to bad people for arguably good reasons? You know,
Okay, so for people who are not sure, Han Van Meegeren, the Procuress, it's from around 1940, maybe a little later, but it's after the original painting by Dirck Van Baburen from 1622. Now, you did know this name when I brought up the slides earlier before we started. What do you know about
yes.
this?
I know he was a forger who sold a lot of paintings, many of them to high-level Nazis,
Mhm.
because so much ambiguity was going on in provenance of paintings during the war that he could basically say, "Oh, I came upon this famous master's work or whatever, and then sell it to some, Nazi with too much money and kind of pulled one over on them. And I don't remember if he actually got caught or if he only got caught after the war.
Well, he's become a bit like a folk hero, hasn't he?
Yeah, a little bit of a Robin Hood kind of situation, right? Even though he was doing it for himself, as far as I know. But he was also taking a big risk messing with some of the most vile humans who have ever lived,
Yeah, I mean, when you think about that sort of status of being like, a folk legend, a folk hero, he was messing with very dangerous people who were extraordinarily powerful. But he is described, Van Meegeren, as a notorious forger. So with people who forge paintings, what is their intention? Is it just to make the money, or is there something else in it? Is there something about the mastery or masterfulness of original paintings
getting one over on people?
No, but that these forgers want to emulate so closely that they somehow imbue themselves or take on the power and kind of psychological value of these original masters or masterpieces.
Sounds very Highlander.
Of course, I don't know what you mean. But anyway, this was sold to Goebbels, I think.
Old Uncle Joe, as we call him in America.
Yeah. What a person to mess with, right?
Yeah.
I don't actually know the rest of the story in terms of, how this was kind of unveiled or discovered to be a fake. But what's interesting about it is it's actually in its own right a very valuable painting because of at least the part of the story that we've already described. Simply that, as you say, at a time when provenance of painting was being, well, the Nazis just wanted to pilfer everything they could get their hands on that was of value. Sure. And so masterpieces that were held in private collections and family homes were just whipped off and distributed willy-nilly practically. But the question of value, the value of like the original painting, we might say is extraordinarily high. And also its kind of social and moral context at the time in 1622, the Procuress, this is the prostitute, the client, and the Procuress on the right. For the copy itself to gain such notoriety, equal in measure really, but for different reasons, and actually to start accruing a mass following of people who really celebrate that Van Meegeren did in fact lie successfully to.
Well, it has historical significance on its own, if only for those reasons, right? And therefore may have been imbued with value to collectors.
But it does bring me to the notion that, if we lie and we lie convincingly and nobody ever finds out, is there a problem with it?
Yep.
Or as you've already said or suggested, if we lie and the lie is for a so-called good reason, I think this is a very interesting thing. Like, what way is right way? We're bound by these polarities between good and bad and right and wrong. But, that's not realistic, is it? With the nuances of our behavior and our emotional responses and, if something.
No, but neither is absolute relativism where there is no right and wrong, because then you're just swimming in a sea of noise on that side too. But so, I mean, the ambiguity in the middle, the needle is somewhere in the middle there.
No, but can we really look at it? Is there actually any right or wrong?
Well, as a non-religious person, I would say no, except that, sort of a golden rule kind of, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And if people treat you poorly in the way that you don't want to be treated, or you do it to them, I mean, you could argue that one has a higher morality than the other, you know? But that's just real basic survival of the species kind of stuff. You know, why do we trust anyone? Why do we trust our family more than our friends and all this kind of nonsense? Blood over water, you know, all this kind of stuff.
I mean, that's the original. It's a very poor pixelated copy I've pulled from Google.
Do you know where the original is or was, and was it known where it was when Van Meegeren made the fake? You know what I mean?
I mean, the original painting is in the kind of I can't remember the term, but the style of Caravaggio. It was at the kind of in its own right a sort of following of Caravaggio.
Sure.
Have the kind of chiaroscuro that we would be familiar with from Caravaggio's painting, but it was very much of that oeuvre or just past that period in history. So it is Dutch. I don't know where the original would have been. I suspect it would have been in Holland, actually.
Yeah, probably.
There are likenesses to, obviously, Vermeer, not just because of the Dutchness, but...
Funny enough, it's actually the MFA in Boston.
Is it? So have you seen it?
Yeah, supposedly. I must have seen it, but I don't specifically remember it.
But in terms of value, you know, is this of higher value than this?
It's funny because you have a situation where you have, I'm going to really simplify this. I don't mean this in any way, but sort of I was going to say second rate. It's not second rate, but let's just say for a moment that it is already sort of a copy of a style itself from back in 1622. And then you have a guy making a copy of that in 1940. It's not like the original was original. You know what I'm saying? So there is
that's also part of this whole discussion, isn't it? That, you know, do we conflate what truth is with something that is original? And in that,
yes, I think we do.
Right. Okay.
I mean, there are conspiracy theories that the Mona Lisa that's at the Louvre is not actually the Mona Lisa because the Mona Lisa was stolen and there were copies made and they caught the guy. And some people argue that it's one of the copies that ended up back in the thing and the original somewhere else. You know, so.
But does that really make any difference to any person who ever goes to see it?
Whenever I see the Mona Lisa, I do think about that. And I go, I wonder if that's really a copy and the original's in a vault somewhere in some rich guy's house.
But that makes it seem like you are very separate from what you see, though. You know,
sometimes I am. Sometimes I have trouble being present when I'm looking at things like that. Surprisingly, for somebody who looks at this kind of stuff all the time. No, you don't? You're able to connect?
Mostly, yes. I mean, I'm mostly, yeah.
Okay.
Things fall away. In that, you know, things fall away when I look at this, and I get we're kind of talking about meeting things afresh about possession last week. It's almost as if truth or lie is utterly irrelevant when one just is.
Let me ask you a question. If you are Sandi Robertson, you spoke to those people, as far as I know, and I've spoken to you for tens or hundreds of hours now, and we've met in real life, and I've had dinner with your mother. As far as I know, you are Sandi Robertson. However, yeah, if you were lying to me this entire time, and the woman I met in Vancouver is actually an actress playing a role to cover up some crazy story of yours, right? What if I really believed that? And you said to me, no, I really am Sandi Robertson. And I said, I don't believe you. There is no truth. You are not Sandi Robertson as far as I'm concerned. Sandi Robertson doesn't exist. You know, how would that make you feel?
Well, it depends on who's feeling, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, you would probably think, no, there is a truth. The truth is I am Sandi Robertson.
Oh, I don't know, Bill. You see, you're not maybe speaking.
You don't know that you would.
You're not speaking to the right person for those sorts of answers.
Okay.
I'm not being deliberately obtuse. I do actually question a lot of the time if we are who we even think we are to ourselves. There are things that have
Well,
really
okay, if you're going down to that level, then yeah, okay, you can question that too.
no, but I mean, genuinely, this is a good forum within which these things kind of come up or come out. But I know there are things in the last 5 years of my life that have utterly shaken me to my core, and what I've
Sure.
thought has been my core has been displaced, and through a process of grief and of fear, really, uh, I've come to question this persona that I think
Okay.
I must have created. I did it inadvertently. I wasn't necessarily conscious of having created it, but it was a persona. And when it fell away, it was cataclysmic in my life. Now, that is
But
about,
even then you had to choose an identity to replace it, right?
no, this is what's interesting is that um, there are things that I'm sure in all of us are deliberate, and those are just affectations. I do look at whether there's this core being. And if there is, it seems to me that what I consider to be my core being is not mine at all. And actually, it is just your core being is my core being. And we all have this thing that is somehow the same. We are entirely the same. And it is just affectation that separates us, which is why anything to
You
do
sound like
with,
a Scientologist.
well, I'm not, but liar, liar. I have done an excellent job of lying to myself. Does it matter? I'm not sure. When we see a painting that's a forgery, does it matter if the painting is very good and it pleases our eye? What is the function of the painting? And in as much as that can then be put into context of our wider life, if I have lied to myself, but I have lived my life, the lie is my life and therefore is made almost like null and void the emotional or moral kind of abhorrence with which we meet the term lying. Do you see what I'm saying? The lying has
Sure.
been a living. And if that's the case, then I'm glad I've lived.
Yes. I think you can, I mean, this is like a sort of a postmodern theory of the idea of truth, right? Where, if you break everything down to its constituent parts, it's really just a bunch of atoms and it really doesn't mean anything. These are all pieces of information. Whether they're true or not is irrelevant as long as someone believes them. And what if you stop believing in yourself?
We're talking about many different things now, actually, and each of them
Yeah.
are kind of huge things, but they're also subtle things at the same time. So we're talking about truth, and we're talking about lies and illusion. We're also talking about right and wrong, morality.
Mm-hmm.
If I lie to you, is that a badness?
Yes. Because I see us as friends, and I would feel like you were breaking my trust. But that's all just because that sort of belief in trust of individuals,
Mm.
trust between friends and individuals is sort of that's evolutionarily bred into us as a safety mechanism, as a
We're
safe.
only socialized into that, Bill. There might
Sure.
not be
No,
much
I think
truth,
it's innate.
but
No,
there
I
might
think it's
not be
innate.
much truth in it.
Maybe. there's also the people in the world who don't mind being lied to, and that's a whole other thing.
I don't really mind being lied to all that much.
Or want to be lied to.
I have wanted to be lied to in my life as well. And I think, again, if we can look at it and be very honest, when I have been told things straight, they have been so profoundly hurtful. My ego has exploded with the truth.
Yes, but wouldn't you rather know the truth than believe a lie that wasn't true?
But again, this is about where the lie is and what value lying has. Again, if a lie is the thing you've lived, then that life is not redundant. That life is not nothing. That life is still life. It's
Sure.
almost as if we've given value to things that are not important. Now,
no. Okay, so wait, if that's true, then what is important?
well, seems just far too simple and probably irritating to say that just being is important. And if we take
being is temporary.
this, well, Bill. All you have is being. You think you think you have your memory and experience, but those are actually kind of, the memory of experience is actually already becoming warped in your mind. You're distorting it even as we sit here speaking of it.
Of course, yes. But at the same time, is the fact that that is inevitable and part of our operating system, as it were, as is, every videotape of the thing that you're trying to remember is from a certain angle, and microphones that pick up certain things and lit a certain way. That's also something that's not necessary. None of them are the truth, and therefore, if none of them could ever actually be the truth, do any of them have any value? By the way, the copy, the Van Meegeren copies in London, actually.
Yes, it's a Coutard.
Yeah. Which is the one place I forgot to go while I was in London, and I'm kicking myself because I really wanted to see the Manet. I just have one question for you, though.
Okay.
What's your real name?
And that's a story for another time. Bill Wadman.
Do you like one of these over the other? Do you like the original over the copy?
I actually, I've enjoyed looking at the copy. But I think the story brings with it that sense of enjoyment. As a painting on a wall, truthfully, I may well have walked past the original. But the kind of enriching aspect is the story that comes with the copy of it.
If you need it, there is a very good version of the copy on Wikipedia.
Well, thanks for telling me after we've done this, Bill. That's fantastic.
Well, and a good copy of the original too.
Well, viewers.
Fun as always.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
No problem, Sandi. It was good to see you.